bringing sports, entertainment, and technology podcasts together. This is SPNT.
Irish Impact is brought to you by Stitcher Smart Radio. Download the Stitcher Smart Radio app today at stitcher.com/SPNT. Wow, that was a close one, folks. Welcome to episode 11 of Irish Impact. Notre Dame Fighting Irish eke out a triple overtime 29-26 win over the Pittsburgh Panthers. It was a nail-biter, folks, in South Bend. It was a good game for my fans' perspective, a neutral fans' perspective, maybe not so much for Irish faithful like Kevin and I. Hello, I'm Nick Sumling, joined alongside Kevin Werner. Say hello, Kevin.
Nick, holy Pitt. Was that a close one?
Well done. That was very Chris Boomer-esque.
Wow.
Can you do a Boomer?
Teach.
And quickly, we're off to a great start here on Irish Impact.
For that game, everyone, after the big win in Norman, a little respect, third in the BCS, everyone starts talking them up. Just take care of business. Here comes Pittsburgh, losing record, not very good. And they dominate the Irish for 3 quarters before Notre Dame gets it in gear, builds it back up, and squeaks away with the one by getting all the breaks and a lot of luck of the Irish.
A lot of luck. We'll talk about that here on this episode of Irish Impact. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the game against the Pittsburgh Panthers as well as the upcoming game against the Boston College Eagles. Email us at irishimpact@spnt.tv. You can also give us a follow on Twitter. We are at Irish Impact, a Twitter account which, by the way, blew up on Saturday afternoon. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll talk about the quarterback situation. It seems like a weekly occurrence here on the podcast, so we need to talk about Everett Golson and Tommy Rees. We might have a much more clearer picture of where that situation is headed. All that and much more here on the podcast. It was from a fan's perspective, it was a fun game to watch. You don't want the Irish playing that way. Very flat the first 3 quarters, like you said. Then all of a sudden it seemed like the defense just kind of woke up.
Well, it started out rather promising. Notre Dame was moving the ball downfield. What happened early was they were not getting in the end zone, settling for field goals when Brinza took the 3-0 lead. Pitt comes right back down, matches them. Then they get down in the second quarter early, and they have first and goal. There's a penalty on the pass interference play, so they get about 7 shots to get in the end zone, and they end up settling for another field goal to go up 6-3. And the offense just didn't seem to have that push up front to get in the end zone. Also, play calling and early on, suspect in those short yardage situations. We just didn't see him going for a traditional goal line sneak. When you have a quarterback like Golson, you have an offensive line, and you're talking about a yard or a half a yard or a foot. Just get the big guys up there and push. I don't know what a lot of fans were all griping about, and they should have been. They're coming out in these shotgun sets on third and goal from the 1, and it's just like, just get up and go.
Right. Well, there was a lot of things that went wrong in that game for the Irish that for the first time kind of cropped up all season. Something we haven't seen really at all. I mean, Ray Graham rushed for 170 yards. It just seemed like the Irish defense, a lot of times they were getting out-gapped. They were getting beat at the point of attack from the offensive line versus the defensive line. Now, granted, we had a guy in Lewis Nix who was ill, not playing 100%. So, again, that's not any excuse whatsoever. But to see them getting gashed on the ground like they were, and to see even guys like Heise Manti getting blocked as badly as he was, it was just something we haven't seen all year.
Yeah, it was out of the ordinary, and a lot of this happens to be with how well the defense has played throughout the schedule thus far, and we as fans more or less spoiled by how great they have been. When a team comes out like Pitt, they weren't being dominant. They were just able to move the ball and get points on the board. You should be able to score, let teams maybe score in the teens, or in this case, Pitt gets 20 through regulation, and, still be able to beat them up. But Notre Dame offensively, again, was settling for field goals. But the defense just was letting Pitt kind of move the ball. And like you said, the running game was there for Pittsburgh, and it was just throwing us all off because this was supposed to be one of the easy ones.
Right. This was supposed to be as big of a gimme as possible when you consider it was a Pitt team that came in losing to 1AA I don't know what you want to call it these days. We'll call it 1AA, Youngstown State.
Yeah.
It was a game they should have won. Now, granted, when we talk about Notre Dame, when we talk about Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend, when teams come to town, you're going to get their best shot no matter what kind of year they're having because it's their Super Bowl. It's their BCS bowl game. So you knew Pitt was going to come in and play a lot better than they had shown on film. I didn't think it was going to be that close. I thought that Pitt would show some signs of maybe giving Notre Dame a little bit of a run, but I didn't know it was going to be like that. Before we get to the second half, let's talk a little bit about the first half because there were some interesting coaching changes that Coach Kelly made at the quarterback position. Now, interception that Reese threw was in the first half. Am I correct? Or was
that was in the
half?
second half.
Okay.
Reese came out and started the second half. He played just briefly at the end of the first after Golson had his helmet knocked off.
And I honestly thought there was something wrong with Golson, and that's why he wasn't playing.
Yeah, we didn't get much of an answer coming back out in the second half. We just saw Golson on the sideline.
Right.
But he had his helmet knocked off, as per rule, had to come out of the game. And Reese comes in and leads him to that field goal attempt right before the halftime. Brinza is unable to connect on it.
Right. So the field goal ultimately probably ended up coming back to haunt us because with the field goal we would have won in overtime.
Well, yeah,
I'm not sorry, in regulation. And then of course what could have potentially been bad was the missed extra point. And again, we talked about Brinza's been he's been streaky of late. Missed a kick at Oklahoma, missed 2 kicks. I mean, an extra point should be as close to a gimme as possible, but there's a former kicker. I know there's a lot that goes into it. Maybe it was a bad snap, bad hold. Either way, sometimes that just happens. But could have come back to haunt us. How much credit do you give Brian Kelly giving Brinza the chance in overtime to go out there and kick the tying field goal to send it into another overtime, especially when you consider it was on the right hash where he'd already missed earlier in the game?
Well, I mean, all honesty, I don't give Brian Kelly that much credit. I don't think he had any other option to go with. The offense on that overtime, after Pitt had scored to take up the lead, the overtime won 23-20, and Notre Dame offense just doesn't get anything going, 3 and out, time to kick, and it's like, what are you supposed to do here? I know you're kind of a proponent of let's go for it, but from there you're looking at a 37-yarder.
But we're talking about a guy in Brian Kelly who historically has had he's been full go. Do you remember the Tulsa game a couple years ago? Mm-hmm. He let Tommy Reese throw it. All they had to do is kick a field goal to win or tie the game. I think it was tie. I can't remember. Either way, they're at the 18-yard line. And
they were in field goal range.
And they let Reese throw it. I mean, that's how aggressive Brian Kelly is. That's why I was surprised to see him send Brinza out there, considering the struggles he had.
Well, so I don't know if we give it Brian Kelly credit, but we give Kyle Brinza a lot of credit for connecting on it.
Onions, as Bill Raftery would say.
He came through.
Onions. Anyway, again, the kick was huge in overtime to send it to a second overtime. It was a second overtime where nobody scored because, well, Sierra Wood at the goal line. And then luckily Notre Dame's best player,
Kevin Harper,
misses the field goal in overtime by inches.
Uncharacteristically, too, because in the game he had hit a 39-yarder, 21, 41, and then he had a 44 in the next overtime. So this chip shot after the Wood, fumble, it seemed like as much as Notre Dame had clawed their way back into it, it looked like, because the fumble in the air, it was the correct call. Ball popped out right before the paint, and Pitt had the ball. But let's go back quick and talk about the fourth quarter.
Okay, good idea.
Down 20-14. Golson comes back into the ball game, benched at halftime. Like we said, we weren't sure if he was injured, and he finally turns on the Everett Golson we've been waiting to see. It was early on in the game. He was connecting on passes, but the legs weren't there. And in a sense of urgency, down 2 scores in front of your home crowd, he turned it on with his legs and his arm.
That's why I think it's a clear indication from this point forward he will be playing almost 100% of the game. There has to be some kind of injury or I don't know. You can't take him out now. He is your closer. He is your closer. Just on the sheer ability with what he can do with his feet. He is now your closer. He should be playing every down. I'm fully 100% on board with Golson. I've done a complete 180, thinking that, okay, I understand why you're bringing Reese in. But now, after seeing what Tommy did, Tommy Reese is back in a bad way. I mean, that was an awful throw.
Oh, it was one of the worst.
And
it reminded you of what we've known from Reeves, why the
Right.
nickname Turnover Tommy exists. 19 turnovers, I believe, last year.
Right.
And, a lot of just trying to force passes that aren't there, leaning on, going
bad.
towards Eifert. Golson, though, considering he doesn't play a majority of the third quarter, he finishes 23 for 42, 227 in the air, 2 touchdowns. That poor interception we can talk about. But on the ground, 15 for 74, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion.
And he won the game.
Oh, yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. His running ability, he added an entirely new dimension to the game, something that the Pitt defense hadn't seen until the fourth quarter. And by then, they're already worn down. You could tell how tired they were getting there in the fourth quarter. They weren't making tackles. They weren't getting to the ball as well as they had been. So, again, Everett Golson, run like the wind, my friend, because that is it was a sight to see. Now, the interception you saw him throw, freshman mistake. He's going to make that. It just happened to be in the fourth quarter of a big game in Week 9 where you're down by a couple scores and you need points. But again, I admire the courage to throw that ball. It was just not, I don't know, poorly timed, I guess you could say. But he came back from it.
The
He bounced
resiliency
right
to
back.
bounce right back from it, though. Golson comes back after the defense holds. Great stand by the Notre Dame D. He completes that pass for 45 yards to DeVaris Daniels and then sets up the touchdown pass to Riddick. And then on the 2-point conversion play, scrambling a little bit, finally just trusts his legs, sees a lane, and just goes for it. And that's one of those magical Notre Dame plays you're going to remember for a long time, watching him dive with the ball out over the goal line.
The one thing that sticks out in my mind about the touchdown pass to Riddick is that there's a point where he runs up to the line of scrimmage like he's going to run, and it quickly gets cut off. And so what does he do? He almost kind of hops backwards by 2 or 3 yards, it seemed, to get outside and out of the pocket. That little jump outside was, to me, like something you see in Madden.
Like a little shake.
Yeah, it was like, wow, okay, this kid's got it. And to get outside and to make the play and to make a good throw, just, again,
especially
to bounce back.
As we said, after he'd thrown a pick on the last time they had the ball, now back up really against the wall, down 8. And this time it's very similar to when he threw the pick, but he has the wise decision to put a little more air under the ball, get it over the defender, and Riddick makes a great snag, and then again the 2-point conversion. So a lot of magic on Saturday in South Bend for the Irish. And those are the kind of games you have on a magical season run, like we've seen now, 9-0, the best start since 1993.
There was a brutal pass interference call in the second half, which led Notre Dame to their second touchdown to make it 20-12 because of the
should have
missed
been
point.
13. Yeah.
We got a break there. Probably not PI. I could see in real time when I was watching it, I thought it was because I thought he kind of hindered Eifert's ability to jump. I thought, but then when you're watching it in slow motion, you're looking at it and going, yeah, we probably got away with one there.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I notice watching a lot of football on Saturdays. It seems to me just a lot of these calls could go one way or the other.
Right.
There's a lot of hands-on action with tight ends and receivers versus players in the secondary or linebackers. And sometimes you're like, where's the flag? Sometimes you're like, that was a flag?
Right.
I mean, so it kind of – it's a little bit of everything watching these guys. It's got to be frustrating to play in the secondary these days.
I don't know how they do it, honestly, because everything's a penalty.
Oh, yeah.
Seems.
Well, I'm talking Saturdays. How about Sundays?
It's even worse.
Just throw it up. And once we run, they throw it up, and then someone throws the flag.
That's right. So you didn't think it was PI?
I mean, like I said, it could have went either way. You want it to,
kind of like Manti's interception.
You take it as a homer, but I can see the frustration had that been called on Notre Dame, which there was one earlier in the game on Pitt was driving that Notre Dame had. I'm not sure who they were throwing to. It was earlier on. And it looked like the same thing. There's a couple guys slapping hands.
Yeah.
You can easily call some of these offensively, too.
Right. I mean, they got away with it. But good teams, they take advantage of it. I think it was a very nice play. They threw the nice wide receiver screen to T.J. Jones, who kind of walked in the end zone untouched.
Which was impressive because he had been injured earlier on in the second half, and he kind of had his ankle. They were checking it out. He comes back in, and that ankle looked like it was working fine to me on those cuts.
Yeah, he did great. He had a good game. Good throw by Golson, great blocking, and that got it to us within one score. I know we're jumping around here, but there's so many different things to talk about with this game.
After the majority of the game, when we're deep into the third quarter, Notre Dame just had nothing really going. They still just had 6 points on the board. Clock was ticking, albeit plenty of time left as they showed to get back into it. But then, boom, a flip switch, and there's so much that happened in that fourth quarter and into overtime.
There was one play in particular that I keep going back to, and it was when Pitt took a 20-6 lead. Their tight end, conveniently named Holtz,
we were going to have to mention that.
Scores a touchdown in South Bend, ironically enough. You look over on the sideline, and the Pitt players are dancing, they're smiling, they're having a good time. They're thinking they've got this game won. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, there's 2 minutes left in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a 2-score game. What are you doing?
I mean, I think they were so ecstatic.
It almost looked like they quit.
With the level they had played at to that point, and the maturity wasn't there to say there's a lot of football left, and they had to lock down. And maybe they got – I mean, obviously they didn't contain Notre Dame enough because Golston started running. The passing game was all of a sudden there. And then Notre Dame, even though Pitt would make a big turnover, Notre Dame came right back out, forced them to kick, and marched right back down on them. So Notre Dame really got it in gear, whereas Pitt kind of fell apart.
Super ultra-conservative after the fourth quarter – or during the fourth quarter. There was a lot of miscommunication between Sinceri and their center. Couple botched snaps.
I mean, I think they were just
the
really
pressure finally
they
were getting to him finally, which they hadn't done all game. It was almost like Lewis Nix kind of played through the sickness. He got it out of his system, and then all of a sudden he was healthy again. He turned it on, and boom, there they go.
I mean, great watching it at home in the HD, and you're seeing the beauty of like Notre Dame Stadium at night as the sun had gone down. The crowd had come alive. And Pitt started playing instead of to win, just not to lose.
Right, and you
that's
know what happens
Notre
when you
Dame
do
took
that.
advantage.
Again, we talked about it kind of earlier. The missed field goal, the missed extra point. You know, it could have meant that Notre Dame wins in regulation. Instead, they do win in triple overtime. They were able to hold Pitt in the third overtime to a field goal, and then the Irish really kind of just took it to them there in the third overtime. You could tell Pitt's defense, who had been on the field for a very long time in the fourth quarter, as well as in the first couple of overtimes there. Again, all teams go through games like this where they have a big sigh of relief. It's just how they respond to that adversity that you really have to admire. Notre Dame could have easily just, after the third quarter, hung their heads and said, it wasn't meant to be. But give them a ton of credit for hanging in there, sticking with it, and sure enough, the Irish prevail in 3 overtimes. It's almost like, and I hate when coaches say this, and Lou Holtz says this all the time on ESPN, but about them being a team of destiny. Do you think they're a team of destiny, or is it more they're just making the most of their opportunities?
I think it's Coach Kelly in his third year taking with these players and molding them into a team that's confident to continue to play even as poorly as they did through the first 3 quarters to keep them confident to go. Coach Kelly even said in the postgame on NBC, last year, 2 years ago, we lose this one for sure.
Right.
This team now, the maturity of the players, and they're able to persevere, fight their way through the mistakes, and then play tough throughout the fourth quarter and into the overtime and come away with the win. It was pretty special watching those guys go down and sing the alma mater after such a win. That's 2 out of the last 3 at home in overtime.
We'll talk about the home field advantage that Notre Dame has seemed to not really take advantage of so far here in 2012, and we'll also look ahead to this weekend's game against Boston College coming up in just a bit. But before we do that, just a reminder, you can rate and review our show on iTunes. We'd love to hear your feedback, whether it's good or bad. Just do a keyword search, Irish Impact, in the iTunes store or through your podcasts app if you're an iOS user, whether it be an iPod, iPod Touch, iPhone, iPad, the new iPad Mini. Again, if you're using the podcast app, we'd love your feedback. So if you could leave a review for our show, we would certainly appreciate it. Don't forget, you can email us at irishimpact@spnt.tv and give us a follow on Twitter at Irish Impact. Now it's time for our favorite part of the show.
Shout-outs!
Kevin, who you got this week?
I got a pair of shout-outs. One just goes to a new Twitter follower for us at Irish Impact. We gained a few over the weekend. Nick, of course, always live tweeting the games. This one, her name Mandy. Her name is Mandy with the ND capitalized.
Oh, nice.
Golden 81. Diehard, true, loyal Notre Dame fan since 93. and a Seahawks fan as well. That's Mandy Golden 81. I'm guessing for Golden Tate as well, maybe.
Could be 81. Who else was 81? Isn't Goodman 81?
Goodman might, yeah, he might be.
Could be the year she was born.
That's true. And then I have a second shout out. I want to just shout out to my uncle Steve Dixon. He hosted us in his man cave for the weekend. I was able to get together with my dad, Uncle Steve, my Uncle Skip, and my brother Chris came along as well. And very fun watching different generations soak in Notre Dame football as they struggle throughout the game and they turn it around for the win. You see the up and downs of people's emotional turmoil watching these games on NBC.
Yeah, I know. I was just watching that game on Saturday, the ups and downs. There was one point during the game where they had just gone down, I think 20-6, and I'm thinking to myself, what are we going to talk about? Like, this is going to be the first time we're going to talk about a Notre Dame loss. And I immediately said to myself, no, I am not going to think that way. We're coming back to win, and sure enough, they did. So, again, the ups and downs of Saturday were unreal. One of the ups for me, it was such a bizarre kind of experience for me Saturday during the game. Like Kevin said, I live tweet at Irish Impact during the games. Give us a follow there on Twitter at Irish Impact. And I don't know, you didn't notice it because you didn't have the audio on during the games, but
well, we had it on. It was just there was enough of us over talking Mike Mayock because we all think we know more than he does.
I like Mike Mayock. I think he's good. He's a really good color
really
commentator.
good
He knows what he's talking about. He kept saying, "Isn't this fun? This is just so much fun. This is fun." And finally, in the fourth quarter, it might have even been the first drive of overtime. I just finally tweeted, "If I hear this is fun one more time, I'm gonna punch something." And a huge shout out to @GoFightin', no G, Fightin' Irish. Give him a follow on Twitter. He retweeted that, and all of a sudden, for the next 45 minutes, I kid you not, my phone just kept going off because of that tweet. Everybody was retweeting it and favoriting it, and then commenting on it. It's just
looks like you struck a nerve.
It was like, oh my God. And it was, my phone kept vibrating and going off so much that I couldn't have a chance to even get new tweets out there. Just, I couldn't believe it. It was, I got that retweeted last night, Monday night. So again, a huge shout out to Go Fightin' Irish. Give him a follow on Twitter. And special thanks for retweeting that. I've never had anything like that happen to me in my Twitter existence, but we went from right around 60 or so followers to just over 100 like that. So pretty cool. Again, give us a follow on Twitter at Irish Impact. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Irish. If you have a moment, and I know this is a podcast about Notre Dame football, but I also host a Cincinnati Bengals podcast called Who Dey Weekly, and we are a finalist in this year's podcast awards. And I didn't mention this last week. I forgot to. I wanted to this week. If you get a chance, log on to podcastawards.com and vote for our podcast, Who Dey Weekly. Hopefully next year, Irish Impact is a finalist in the podcast awards.
Yeah.
Not eligible this year, but next year, hopefully we'll be.
Yeah, and if you're obviously a Bengals fan, subscribe as well.
Absolutely. You can check that out at whodayfans.com. That's where our other podcast is, and also spnt.tv. All right, enough self-promotion for me, Kev. BC, a team that has a history with Notre Dame. They have a history of knocking off the Irish during their most, I don't know, their highest of highs.
In their last two most successful seasons, 1993 and 2002, when Notre Dame has been undefeated, BC has been the underdog that's come in and knocked them off.
I don't know if it will happen this time.
Well, BC is not both of those times in '93. Both those times in South Bend. This one is in Boston College. Both those times, though, BC was a much better team than
they finished 9-3 both those years.
Yeah.
So
it's a different story.
We're looking at a team that's 2-7, lost to Army.
Here I'll run it down real quick. BC 2-7, 1-5 in the ACC with losses to Miami. Then they beat Maine. And then they lost here in a row to Northwestern, Clemson, Army, Florida State, Georgia Tech. Got their second win against Maryland on the 27th of October, and then lost last week to future Notre Dame opponent Wake Forest. And again, 2-7 coming into this one.
BC, this is a team that I believe a year ago Notre Dame eked out a win, gave the Irish some trouble. They were able to run the football on them.
16-14.
Yeah, I remember it being a very close score in South Bend. This time the Irish go on the road where so far this year they have been lights out. They've been fantastic. I can't even tell you a close game that they've had on the road.
Yeah, Notre
They
Dame
blew out Navy. They
beats Navy by 40.
Wouldn't say blow out Michigan State, but it
they-
wasn't close.
Yeah, they controlled the game the whole time, only gave up 3 points. And then Miami, a neutral site again, 41-3. And then at Oklahoma. And those are the road games so far.
So now here we go. Playing Boston College, a team that nobody's giving them a chance to win. In fact, I think the line I saw was, 17?
19 when I looked at it before we went on air here
that's
tonight.
awfully high. Do the Irish have any chance of falling into that trap a second week in a row? Now, granted, they got out against Pitt. They got out of the trap against the Panthers, but I don't know if they can afford to do it again.
I think the trouble for Boston College is going to be offensively. Notre Dame's going to be able to get at them. Their offensive line's not that good. They rank just 122nd overall in the country in rushing yards. They throw 27th in the country, but that's because their running game is so dismal. But points for, they're only averaging 22 a game. That's just in the top 100 in the FBS. So they're going to have a lot of work to be done. In order for them, I think, to be effective against Notre Dame at all, they're going to have to play turnover-free, immaculate football. I think Notre Dame, this team really is a poor team. But, we saw it last week. We thought it would be a roller against Pitt, and Pitt gave them everything they got, and that's one thing we always repeat on the show here. Everyone plays Notre Dame for the toughest because everyone wants to beat Notre Dame.
Not only when they play Notre Dame, it's when they play Notre Dame in South Bend.
Especially the trip to get to go to that stadium
Right.
and play a game. But Boston College and Notre Dame, they have a history. Notre Dame leads the all-time series 12 games to 9, with the Irish winning the last 3. But it's one of those special games because it's the only 2 Division I Catholic universities that play football. Mm-hmm. So Notre Dame fighting Irish versus the Boston College Eagles. And, again, it's going to be fun to see this one because they're going to put it on primetime again on ABC.
As they should. It's Notre Dame.
Game of the week.
Have to. Well, I guess you don't have to, but they certainly want to.
Boston College had the choice to either play the game at noon or at 8, and they put it at 8.
It's probably smarter than
so they
play
can
it.
get the primetime game.
So each and every week, we normally do bowl predictions. I'll go first this week.
Okay.
I think they pitch a shutout. I think the defense is going to come back, rearing to go. You're going to get a healthy Lewis Nix back. I think Manti Te'o is going to have a huge game. He knows he didn't play very well against Pitt, and a lot of it had to do with what Pitt did to him. But it was the first time you were kind of wondering, where is Manti? Because we weren't hearing his name called very often. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to bounce back with a huge game. He may have probably double-digit tackles. I think they're going to pitch a shutout against Boston College, and I think they're going to run the ball down BC's throat. Okay. A lot of it with Golson.
So
Golson with 100 yards rushing
is
my bold prediction, and a pitch to shutout by the defense.
Okay, we're not too far off here because I think the defense is going to create around 4+ turnovers.
Wow.
I think Boston College cannot run the ball effectively. Notre Dame knows that. The Notre Dame front four won't let them to begin with, even if they were better statistically. What we've seen with their schedule and the numbers, they're not. So Notre Dame, I think, will be able to get pressure in on the quarterback, force him to try to do things he doesn't want to try to move the ball downfield, create some picks, or maybe get pressure on him and make him fumble.
I hope you're right. I don't know if I can take these nail biters, and it's only going to get worse as we go. Cool thing is, after BC, you and I headed to South Bend for Senior Day against Wake Forest. Really
Irish Impact road trip to South Bend for the home finale of the 2012 season. Very exciting stuff.
And we'll talk about this a lot more next week too as well. But I'm excited. I've only been to one Notre Dame game in my life, which ironically happened to also be Senior Day. Charlie Weiss's last home game at Notre Dame Stadium. Unfortunately, a loss to Connecticut. But again, a lot different circumstances this time around. I'm looking forward to that. I know you're looking forward to it as well. And, my wife's going with us too. So
yeah, it's going to be a nice, fun road trip. And quick shout out to my brother Sean for hooking us up with the tickets.
Thank you, Sean.
He works at the university, so very cool to be able to set this up. We just got to get through BC first. I know that.
One game at a time. Give us a score prediction.
No doubt. I've learned that after last week. I think Notre Dame, as I said it last week, I think they roll. I think they run the ball effectively. I think the defense, though, gets back on page here, back on par. They're the story of this one, really. I think the Irish take them out. I'll say 31-3.
3 points. Wow. You can't say shutout because then you're stealing my thunder. I'll say that, I don't know. When I look at last year's score line, 16-14 in South Bend, that tells me that Boston College...
Very familiar to a lot of games we've seen in South Bend this year.
Yeah. But that tells me that BC has some semblance of an idea. Again, they weren't facing Everett Golson. They were going up against Turnover Tommy. So, again, it's a whole different beast from an offensive standpoint. But I'll say the Irish win. I'll go 35-0. That's my prediction.
I just looked down the BC schedule for the games they've lost, and they've given up 41, 22, 45, 34, 51, 37. I think the Irish are due to put some points up.
I'm wondering if I might change my my thinking here. I might go 42.
I mean, the only game they dominated was Maine, and that's 34-3. Maine is Division II, correct?
I don't know.
So, I don't know.
So maybe I'll change mine. I said 35. No, I'll stick with 35-0. 35-0 is my, and Golson has 100 yards rushing.
All right. So we're right there together then. 31-3, 35-0. Big one for Notre Dame this week.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Email us at irishimpact@spnt.tv. Check us out at irishimpact.com. Give us a follow on Irish Impact, at Irish Impact on Twitter. Is there anything else we need to talk about this week? Am I missing anything?
I think that covers it for us.
The one thing we didn't talk about, and again, hindsight, it could have been called the field goal try in overtime by Pitt. Harper's missed
on it,
where two Notre Dame players were wearing the same number.
We did not. There were two number twos on the field.
Right. And I guess, what do you say? Luck of the Irish.
That really is the luck of the Irish, because especially with Pitt blowing that whole game, and it's already sick to their stomach, to know that happened and was not caught. I mean, I'll just walk away going, let's just get away.
A win is a win, right?
Take it and run.
Oh, so they're 9-0. You and I both think they're going to be 10-0 heading into the season, the home finale against Wake Forest. It should be a good one. Looking forward to Saturday night. Where are you going to be watching?
I'm not sure yet. Still up in the air.
Sounds like you're coming over here. Not to put you on the spot.
Well, we'll see.
I'll post some awesome pictures of my kids plugging their ears as I was screaming in triple overtime on our website. You can see where, they were kind of, they get nervous every time I yell, and they knew that Irish were about to score, so they plugged their ears.
Well, they did what I had said they should have done early on in that game, and they just started running the QB sneak.
Yep.
Get it in there, and they did, and that'll do it.
That will do it. We're going to see a lot of that this weekend. Hopefully we'll see a lot of Everett Golson's legs and scoring a lot of touchdowns, hopefully.
And sprinkle in a little Riddick and a little Sierra Wood and some GA3, too. I think everyone gets some good carries this week.
Yes. I think you're going to get a lot. And that offensive line is going to have a field day. Whew. The road graders are going to come to town. Watch out, Boston. We're coming for you.
We're shipping up to Boston.
There you go. Well done, Kev. Well done. So that's going to wrap up episode 11. Kev, have a good week, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
All right, Nick. Everybody out there, win one for the Gipper.
Absolutely. IrishImpact.com. Check us out there. Leave us a review on iTunes. Until next week, for Kevin Warner, I'm Nick Subling. We'll see you next time on Irish Impact. How about I play the right outro? This is how smooth we are, folks. Irish Impact is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv.